Welcome back to jail. Devils don't exist. Arc 1. The Fall of Grey Haze.
The wizard Edrad palms this stone disc projecting hologram map into Glaive's hand, and we hard cut to an ornate, beautiful corridor. Gold arches are filled with smooth white brickwork and a glassed ceiling filigreed with gold and images of various angels lets a brilliant natural golden daylight swoop a long, ornate corridor. On these smooth stone white walls, we see many illustrious portraits, images of various saints and figures of note throughout the long and storied history of the Clarity. Priests and saints and paladins and soldiers dying on the fields of battle, images from the years of bloodied reeds, of paladins charging through these swampy river wetlands, pursuing heretical, villainous looking figures on the path to spread the light of the Clarity and to send the gaze of gold throughout this land. It is a otherwise empty corridor, save for the few potted plants that float by a large ornate door and a couple of benches where individuals are expected to sit. In a break between these two brilliant filigree golden benches, a patch of the stone wall appears to breathe for a moment as mortar hisses between its cracks, and it slowly slides open, and emerging from within torchlight, we see Crusader May and Nephilim step into this courtyard, into this corridor from a secret passage. The Crusader shuts the door behind you, and Nephilim, you are presented with an immense set of double doors, etched throughout them the images of many eyes watching you. A great black door surrounded by gold.
I turn to May, who I assume is not allowed to come with me into this big...
You would assume, right. She is already stood to attention waiting for you to leave. And it's just... whereas before the urgency made her lose her composure, now the urgency and the fear of being on the doorstep of the Archbishops' emergency council has gone into like a kind of like deranged, brain-dead autopilot where she is stood to attention in the middle of a corridor where there's no one to be standing to attention to except for you.
The guy in the sky. I turn to her and I take her hand off the pommel of her sword and I unbutton her sleeves and pull them over her hand, and I do the same on the other hand.
She's looking down at you and her hands, you can see they're trembling.
You're gonna be fine.
May I speak plainly, my saint?
Of course.
I am not so concerned for my well-being as I am yours.
It has a plan.
I know. I would not dare ever to question the plan or the path that I walk in the golden gaze of our God, but perhaps it is sacrilegious for me to feel fear that this path that you must walk would...
And you see she's really struggling to put these emotions together.
I have a good feeling. I've been shown something that I think means change is coming.
You have been shown something?
Yeah. Nephilim takes the scroll with the drawing on it and puts it underneath the sleeve of May and just says, "Hold on to that for me."
Of course. And she just nods.
It's time to commune. And Neff kind of struts backwards down the corridor.
You strut backwards towards this door, and as you're about to turn to open it, you just hear, still from Crusader May, who is stood near this secret entrance, goes, I trust in your vision, Saint Nephilim.
And I trust in yours, Crusader.
She smiles and like kind of remembers herself, and still leaving her sleeves totally unbuckled, just returns to an attention that is more confident and at ease.
Before pushing on the doors, Neff adjusts her own sleeves so that they ceremoniously cover her hands before she makes eye contact with every eye on the door.
It takes you a while.
Yeah. And I push.
Doors swing open, and you see an immensely beautiful Spartan chamber before you. Almost in opposition to even the foulest rooms with which you have walked through in the Rostrum Arcadex and the Tower of Lashes. This place here, this emergency meeting hall, is not so gilded and golden. There is no sense in ordaining this place to be impressive to those who would enter it. For the only people who would walk seen in this room are those who are so highly ranked amongst the clarity as to see impressions of gold in great paintings for what they are and not what they attempt to represent. And so it is a kind of circular, almost octagonal chamber again. There are 4 walls that strut into the middle of the room, creating an effect where there is a single open space in the middle, and then sets of slightly raised stairs that lead up to small antechambers. These small antechambers are completely open to the middle chamber that you're in and let in just daylight from the world outside. Just huge lead-lined glass windows that fill those spaces. No stained glass in them. No pomp or ceremony or attempt at creating the images of religion, because the people who walk in this space are religion. It's bare stone, no gold, no filigree, probably like a nice hearty like white sandstone in this room, so it's a little bit like off color, like kind of like eggshelly. There is a door from which you have entered, this kind of like communion space here. No chairs or tables to speak of, but the steps that lead into each of those antechambers are tall enough as to serve as seats, in addition to something that you could rise up. But in fact, rising up, you'd have to like hook your like whatever vestments you've got so that you could like get your knees up to about hip height to go up them. It's an impressively large chamber. Probably at the very height of its domed ceiling, high above you, is like 120 feet to 180 feet up. But in terms of like the overall radius of it, it's probably no more than 90 feet or maybe even 60 feet, you should think. A relatively small but tall chamber. But again, this is the pinnacle of the Tower of Lashes, the very tippy top, as it were. You step into this chamber, and you are expecting to see an emergency council of archbishops. This would be every single one of them you would anticipate. You would expect to see, let me see, who would you expect to see here? You would expect to see Archbishop Wern of the Pupil, Archbishop Vizier of the Iris, and Archbishop Pulsar of the Sclera. But there is only one figure in this space. Sat on the stairs opposite you, waiting by a door that leads into a different sort of chamber beyond, another tall black iron door marked with eyes, Sat on these steps, you see one figure. In this moment, I would like us to reflect upon the purpose of the pupil, the function it serves in the anatomy of the eye. It is a black hole, a well of absence, because that absence is the drinking in of information. It is the part of the eye that takes the stuff in and shoots it through to the brain. A well of nothing but traveling and moving and hoarding in that way that the eye does when it sees things. As such, with this in mind and the purpose that is played by the pupil, I would like for you to describe for me what the Archbishop Wern of the pupil looks like, knowing that this is a person who in their entirety encapsulates this idea of drinking in everything.
I think Archbishop Wern does not care for pomp and circumstance. They are dressed in black robes with a single pendant that highlights the pupil in the eye. I think they're probably an elf or some elven lineage with simple hair and sat rather casually with deep set eyes and eye bags, just staring through Neff, who immediately drops the air of confidence that she had to put May at ease.
What gender do you think we'd throw Wern into?
I don't know, they seem like a man.
Yeah.
This is the church.
That's bad vibes.
This is the
probably
church.
man.
You see a tall, slender wire of an elf, a man who is skin and bone and eyes and leaves little room for anything else. Long black robe with a little bit of like a shoulder cowl that comes down to about like chest height, but other than that has a gold chain around his neck, a pendant of the eye that is completely wrought of black basalt stone, except for the iris, which is outlined in gold. He wears no fingers. He wears no rings on his fingers, and wears remarkably simple shoes that you can see poking out from the bottom of these black robes. He does not have the ostentatious, brilliant blonde hair that we might assume from elves especially Balgardian elves of the old Nitrolin line, who were the most quintessential Legolas-looking motherfuckers on the planet. Mm-hmm. This is an elf who is a modern elf brought up in the modern age, and so he has slick black hair that is cut close to his skull so as to not be an inconvenience, but still combed and styled in such a way as to be sleek. Long ears, pale skin, deep sagging eye bags that are grey underneath either eye. Not a spot of stubble on his face. And the one feature that most distinguishes this man, I think, are his eyes, which are all pupil. There is no iris, no sclera, just deep black pits that focus directly onto you. And he has his fingers crossed, his elbows resting on his knees, hands interlocked as he watches you enter the space, and the door slams shut behind you. And you are here in the space with him and him alone.
Immediate bow. The Neff knows there are only 4 people in this church that rank higher than me, and one of them is sat in front of me. Deep bow.
he nods his head very casually in such a fashion that would be deeply insulting to you if you were anyone, if he was anyone other than who he is, and just raises a limp hand towards you, urging you to rise from your bow. Just waves at you.
I raise and take 10 steps forward.
He lets out a long sigh. Saint Nephilim, have you any inclination as to why you have been brought to this emergency council of the Archbishops on this day?
I've been granted knowing that it is about change. But little more, Archbishop.
Change. Change indeed, yes. Change. I have good news. The war is over.
She breaks into a beaming smile. We share in its vision.
We do indeed. But the war was something that we could control. We may have won against the rostrum Arcadex, but a new threat presents itself. And it is a threat from within. The clarity finds itself in the position where it must turn its gaze inwards now in order to secure its future. Tell me, how familiar are you with the Moronites?
The cult?
The cult, yes.
They worshipped a man, and they endure pain as reverence, and they tried to destroy what we've built many years ago.
Quite so.
Give me a religion or a history check, and I'll say you can make either of those with advantage.
Let's call it religion, cause it's more apt.
Oh, come on, man. 9.
9. I think you know some really basic stuff. I think probably what's happening in this moment is you're being caught off guard because you have been summoned to an emergency council. We're expecting to see 3 archbishops here.
And 4 other saints.
Yeah, and instead you've arrived. There's one guy in here, the scariest guy who could be in here, and it's an emergency council about how everything is going fine. I think you are probably so caught up in this moment, in just the circumstance that you're in, that you're just not able to recall this in this moment. What you know is that back during the Years of Bloodied Reeds, which was the first schism, that there was a religion before yours called the Pursuit. There was a schism that happened caused by an angel called Gaius Artorius. And his actions split the Pursuit into the faiths that now take precedent over the land of Balgard. That being the Clarity, of which you are a member, the Fidelity, and the Moronites. You know that happened, and you know that after the end of the Years of Bloodied Reeds, the church tried to unify again in around 1145, an event known as the Last Schism. Safe to say, it did not go well. And rather than coming together, the churches only split further apart. And so you know that the Moronites are no allies of yours, that they have helped you guys out in the past, but most of the time it's usually with the context of, well, we have to work with these guys. And they're weird. Whereas you guys worship normal things like seeing and beholding and insight and knowing things and the great eye. They worship things like martyrdom, death, flagellation, and the breaking of limbs. You would know that the sigil is a circle of broken fingers.
Brutality.
Yes, brutality indeed. We must form an alliance with the Moronites if we are to survive.
She stops herself from saying, "Are you sure?" May I ask why?
Since the end of Gallows' War, since the turn of the Balgardian people away from their monarchy, we have lost some measure of worshippers. No doubt as a result of our enduring history of supporting old King Ig. Naturally, we do not support the Amygdalin royal line any longer, but the fidelity, those who were once loyal to Gaius Artorius, have always opposed the idea of monarchy. And so to a people who now see monarchy as the truest form of evil, flock to their ranks en masse to pledge their allegiance to the church of a madman. This fidelity, this winged cult. If we are then to survive against the rising popularity of the fidelity, we must make compromises and seek unification with other smaller churches.
All will be one under its gaze.
Quite so, but we must ensure that the Moronites are one with us and not the other way around. The Moronites are to join the Clarity, not the Clarity joining the Moronites. So, tell me, Nephilim, Saint, how familiar are you with the town of Grey Haze?
How familiar am I?
Give me a history check. Or a religion check.
Have you read the same brochure?
Yeah. I will cast guidance. I will run my finger along the ceremonial knife that's in between my hands underneath my sleeves. 10 plus 3 minus 1. 12.
12. I think there's not a terrible amount that you know about Grey Haze. To recap, you know that basically back in the year 1621, the bastard son of old King Ig rebelled against his father. And it was a revolution of the working class people against the aristocracy and the monarchy. And that this was called Gallows' War. And it waged till 1630, in which point the Clarity, the Moronites, everyone joined together with Gallo and his revolutionary army and destroyed the royal line of Amygdalin and the government at the time, which was known as the Ascendancy. They were banished and annihilated, and in the power vacuum that arose from old King Ig's passing, Lord Regent Gallo Igson, that same bastard who had led that rebellion, became the Regent Lord of all of Balgard. Basically another king, but not wearing the same title. And he was completely chill. He let everyone do what they were doing, and then he died. mysteriously in the year 1634 in the town of Greyhaze. And in his absence, that power vacuum again led to the current war, which is the Strife of Spires. In addition to knowing that that town of Greyhaze is the hotbed and the start of this second war following the rebellion, you would know that the town is otherwise famous for an incredible amount of rain that it receives year round and has done for the past 1,000 or so years.
I know it's where the war started.
Quite so.
I have a feeling it's going to be important.
Indeed. The first of the peace talks will be taking place in Gallows Rest in Greyhaze.
You want me to go?
No. I do not want you to go.
And at this point he rises and starts moving towards you and is walking now in a circle around you. And it is a feeling very much like being in the center of an eye.
I instinctually wrap my fingers around the pommel of the blade.
I do not want you to go. It is required of you that you must go to support your fellow saint in ensuring that the rostrum Arcadix behaves itself. But more importantly than that, there is something else that you must recover for us.
I understand.
I would far rather this task fall on the shoulders of one of your siblings. However, they are not here. The Archbishop Vizier of the Iris, Saint Cherubim, and the Knight Crusader Galt, I have no doubt, would be able to complete this quest without so much confusion. But they are otherwise indisposed to the west in the foe's end. So you will have to suffice, Nephilim.
Which of my siblings will I be joining in Greyhaze?
I believe it is Saint Ophanim, who is already there, attending with his crusader. You will go there and support him as he talks with the Rostrum Arcadix in ensuring that the proper reparations given to us by the Arcadix meet our requirements, and support and bolster the clarity. You will have the image of performing this task, and in reality you will be fulfilling a different purpose entirely.
Whatever it decrees.
You need not worry what our God decrees, Nephilim, but what I decree for you. Within the town of Greyhaze, in a region known as the Knuckles.
And at this point he reaches into his black robe and drops a map at your feet, a paper scroll.
It is rumored that buried somewhere within the town there is an old Moronite temple containing an artifact from the years of bloodied reeds. It is a warhammer known as Grovel Thrash. It is sacred to the Moronites and has been lost for many years.
And if we were to return it to them, they would owe us.
Quite so. I'm glad that you can keep up. Yes, with Grovel Thrash in hand, we will be able to make a play to secure an alliance with the Moronites. From there, the Clarity and the Moronites may stand a chance against the rising swarm, the flood that is the Fidelity, and perhaps even we can unify into the pursuit once again in truth this time. I need not stress upon you, Saint, the importance of this task. Should you fail, you might very well find the knife in your possession resting on a bench beneath you as you sit atop a tree.
She bends down and snatches the map from the floor. I will see it done in its gaze. Will that be all?
I will not entrust you to complete this task on your own. You will be entitled to bring your crusader with you. But we will be sending another agent with you. Come in!
Calls out from the door that he was sat beside. It begins to grind slowly open. And a shape floats into the room. You see the Optostitcher Svalkart. You know that that's what this thing is. To know that it could be anything else would be hard because it is so alien and devoid of anything that might approach humanity. You see a nest of glimmering golden eyes embedded in an exposed brain that drifts into the room. The brain is probably the size of a small carriage.
Wow.
Dangling beneath the carriage, you see a web of many interacting nervous systems in the vague silhouettes of something that could be humanoid, but spindling, trailing motes of viscera and gore that trail just above the surface of the floor, twitching and moving and writhing. A chandelier of meat and nerves and electricity and watching eyes that drifts in, slowly rotating. What are those things that they hang over children's beds?
Mobiles?
Oh yeah, like a mobile of a nervous system just drifts into the room.
You know.
Normal clarity things.
Well, yeah, it is.
Hashtag just clarity.
As it floats in, you hear a voice echo from somewhere inside your own skull, located behind your eyes, to such an extent that it makes the beds of your, eye bags quiver with the force of reverberating words, as you hear the Optostitcher Svalgart's voice echo from inside of your head, as it says,
Day's greetings to you, Saint Nephilim. I trust that you find it easy on this day to walk in its gaze.
An honor to be working with you, Optostitcher.
A pleasure as always, my dear.
and it keeps turning, but you feel that that quivering in your eyes move from you, and can only assume that it is manifesting inside of the Archbishop here in this moment as he looks to the creature. You hear nothing as he then goes,
Yes, of course, by all means. I believe that Nephilim will need the additional protection.
and then moves its focus back onto you. You feel the quivering, and all you hear is,
Do not be afraid, Saint. On this day I give you a gift. You shall have an angel of your own.
It is kind of you to shine its light upon us.
one of these tendril, membranous nervous system arms lifts out in front of you, and it can only be recognized as an arm. These arcing veins of red and blue as they stretch out in your direction because they bear the vague shape of an arm before it clicks the ends of its tendrils together, and a light like lightning crackles into space in this being, and you watch as meat and feathers blossom out of this crackling lightning and form an orb of feathers with 4 tendrils sprouting out. The tendrils flare back into wings, and eyes sprout from each of the tendrils. As in D&D terms, we would know this to be a spectator, but you would recognize it as an angel. Take shape here in the space, a feathered aberration in front of you.
She is a mix of disgust and reverence. It is truly kind of you to show me one of the many faces of our devout.
You stand now, protected by the guardian angel, Hamar Kash.
And you watch as this angel floats over the ground towards you and blinks its eyes out of synchrony as it stares into you.
She doesn't really know how to greet it, so in reverence she bows.
Give me a religion check.
17.
17. You see Hamar Kash bows before you as well, recognizing your station, just kind of like tipping itself forward as it floats in the air.
Thank you for your protection, winged one.
It flaps its like eye-lined wings and drifts to float stationary in the air behind you. The Optostitcher pulls that pressure away from you, and you watch as like the Archbishop flinches a little bit before he then nods and goes,
That will be all. May you walk in its gaze.
and you watch then as this figure turns slightly. A crackle of lightning works its way up its body as the electrostatic chemicals inside of this thing devour it in a moment as it teleports out of the space and it's gone.
It's rare for Neph to see such high levels of magic, so she's kind of speechless.
I think you actually see, the Archbishop is a bit wigged out, and there is some like strands of hair hanging in front of his face that he smooths back, and you see like a shiver run down his back as he goes,
You will ascend to the top of the Tower of Lashes with your Crusader and the guardian angel Khmar Kasht. You will take the path of teleportation, the path of its gaze, to the town of Greyhaze. You will make the impression of being there to assist with the peace talks, and in actuality, you will find the Moronite temple, and you will bring Grovel Thrash to me. Have I made myself clear?
Crystal.
Do not fail me.
Jail, Devils Don't Exist is a podcast licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 4.0 international license. You've been listening to Molly Little as Glaive, Quinn Riley Rowe as St. Nephilim, and Sam Pay as all the devils that don't exist. Please like, share, and subscribe. For more content and a peek behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and BlueSky under @jailpod and @jailpod.bluesky.social. That is @jailpod, spelled GAOLPOD. Thank you for listening.